Brad with College SportsCast. Welcome to our weekend wrap-up show.
We executed.
I heard a fan offer free Dippin' Dots if I blew it.
Wanted to have some fun, execute.
I had bombs.
Stay as a team, execute, give 100%.
Dippin' Dots sound good.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome back. It is Brad with College SportsCast, and we are here to do our weekend wrap-up show. While I was coming on the air, it looks like I have John Roberts with me on the phone. Drink Local Beham. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right. Yep. Right now I can hear you. So he is trying to do this on his phone. We got a brand new software that we're using, so we're kind of trying this out and see how this works. But we are here to do the weekend wrap-up show. Yes, this is week one, college football, and it's not quite over yet because it's Labor Day weekend. There's a game going on right now, actually. Oregon State is playing. And then later tonight, probably the biggest game of the weekend, FSU and LSU is playing. I know, John, you're going to be paying attention to that.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. SEC versus ACC. It's probably the biggest game of the weekend. So we're not officially wrapping up the weekend because the first weekend's a little odd compared to the other ones. But most of the games are in the books.
Yep. We had a lot of upsets in this game this weekend so far, and we've had a few what should we say, overreactions on the Twitters and whatnot.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. It's just week one. You can tell some stuff, and then some stuff, you kind of have to wait another week or two before you can officially say, hey, this team is that, or hey, this team is this, or whatever. It's still it's the first week of the season, so
Right.
But with that said, let's start out giving our most impressive statement this week. I think we're going to be in agreement on it so far this weekend. First, your most impressive statement made by a team this week? Who do you think that is?
As far as teams this weekend,
yeah.
Let's see. We can go with a few obvious places where teams that we weren't expecting a whole lot out of did some things, but doesn't necessarily mean that this is like the most biggest thing. A&M put up a lot of points against a team that they should have put up a lot of points against. Auburn did what they were supposed to do. Nobody was really sure about what they were going to look like. Alabama with Jalen Milroe absolutely tore up Middle Tennessee State. Again, they put a statement on them, with teams like that. But I guess the biggest statement would be, and this is probably where you were going, is going to be Coach Prime, Colorado,
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. Yeah.
Going on the road and winning, being a 21-point dog and winning by 3. So or 4, 3 or 4. But yeah,
3, I think.
I believe
Yeah.
that. I think that's the one that we should probably be looking at. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yep.
I think, opening weekend here, week 1 so far, I would have to give it to Colorado and Coach Prime. I mean, to go into TCU 21-point underdogs according to Vegas and the sports books, and it was a shootout. It was 45-42. They did stop them on a 4th down late with about 40, 50 seconds left. It was like stopped them a couple of yards shy. So there was a stop in the game. It happened at the very end, but, it was an impressive performance. His son, the quarterback, had a well of a game, 510 yards, most ever by Colorado Buffalo passing. Travis Hunter played both sides of the ball. I think I read he played 121 snaps, had 112 or 121 yards passing, had an interception on defense, playing corner. So they've got 2 outstanding players. Is that going to be enough, to make a big splash throughout the whole season? It's just week 1. We kind of have to wait and see. Don't you agree with that?
Right. And I mean, also what you really have to look at is, was this a mass improvement with Colorado or a mass drop off by TCU? Because again, TCU was in the national championship game last year or in January or this year. So the talent drop off from TCU or the talent gain from Colorado, we'll know as the year goes on. Was this more of a statement of how bad TCU is or will be, or how good Colorado is or will be? Because that's this thing. I mean, just think, we were looking at TCU, and you could tell that there was a talent disparity in the national championship game, and then they had a lot of players either depart for the NFL or transfer out or whatever, but they are nowhere near what they were last year.
No, they're not.
And then of course this game was defense optional. So,
their ranking preseason was based a whole lot of what they did last year, and
correct.
giving them a little credit off of what they did last year, making it, they were national runner-ups, and so that I feel like that was a whole lot of their ranking preseason wise, right. Anyway, so we don't really know what TC is going to be this year. We don't know if they're going to be 6-6 or 9-3, or you know what I mean. Like we really don't know yet. But you do have to kind of give Colorado some credit to go into an away environment like that and be 21-point underdogs. Deion's going to pound his chest and he's going to speak his words and be the bravado that he is. But let's hold the phone just a few minutes. You know what I mean? And let's see. They get Nebraska coming up, and it is a home game this coming week. And then there's some really good teams in the Pac-12, so we'll see where they wind up. But I wanted to start out with that, and then we'll move on. So I got bad beats and biggest upsets of the week so far. Where do you think some of this lands as far as, what you consider either a bad beat or a big upset? Because there's been some this week. All right, looks like he dropped off for a minute. Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, we're trying out the whole phone thing for the first time here, so I'll let him come back in. So he's talking about bad beats and big upsets. I thought there was a couple in the Pac-12. Baylor got beat by Texas State. Texas State is actually where TJ Finley went, and Baylor got beat by them at home 42-31. And then another one in the Big 12 late last night was Wyoming came back and beat Texas Tech late in that game and knocked them off. So, as far as bad beats and biggest upsets, I think that's two of the biggest upsets over the weekend that happened yesterday. Are you there with me now, John?
Yes. So that was part of them. And then you had, I believe, Purdue got knocked off by Fresno State.
Yes, Purdue got knocked off by Fresno State at home. That was another one that happened yesterday.
Yep.
I'm trying to think, was there any other major where it looks like, you got TCU, that was another one that got beat by Colorado.
Yeah, that one was more of a points thing, as far as, having the point spread, but they were both, those were both Power 5 teams playing each other. And it was just
Purdue got beat 39-35, 4 points at home by Fresno State. Oh, Northern Illinois knocked off Boston College 27-24 in an OT yesterday.
That's right. Yep. Northern Illinois knocked off Boston College. And then those were the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. As far as the bad beats and the upsets that had happened yesterday.
Right.
So there was
that's kind of what
quite a few of them. So
there was Illinois kicked a field goal and barely hung on, won by 2, 30-28 at home over Toledo. This Toledo team is a pretty good team. I'm not going to say that they're not. I think they have a good chance of maybe being a contender in the MAC. And we'll see where they are at the end of the year. But I think this Toledo team is a better group of 5 team would be my take on them.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you there. So sorry, I'm looking at a few things here from yesterday's games. I'm trying to catch up with everything. So I'm trying to do it without losing the connection, because if I do anything on my phone, I will lose the connection. I have to stay on. Yeah,
you have to stay on it.
That's what happened with the first time. Is I tried to minimize and see if I could have this going, and then go to look things up on different sites. Yeah. And when I did that, it kicked me out, and I went, oh, can't do that. So.
I told everybody this is our first time trying to do it on the phone. We got some new software we're running, and we're just trying it out. But I appreciate you jumping on with me. I didn't do it off the top, so I do want to read. We are called at SportsCast. This is weekend wrap-up show. We are part of the Fanboys. We are featured on Let's Talk Sports. We are featured on Sideline Sports, The Real Fresh channel. These are all YouTube channels. You can check them out. And we're on WSBN TV channel 30. Download the BoxCast app. Look for World Sports Broadcasting Network on Roku, Apple, or Fire TV. And once you do that, you can find College Sportscast on channel 30. I also have scrolling at the bottom our True Victory to Fanboys 15% discount. It's a veteran-owned sportswear company. Check them out. And I have our Amazon links located at Greenville Sports Media and fanboys.com. So want to get that out of the way as part of the show today. John, who you think so far? I mean, I know we got LSU and Florida State coming up, but who do you think looks like some of the better teams just after week one?
So far, I mean, what we've seen is that it took Georgia a while before they figured some things out. I still think they're going to be a good team. I think it's an overreaction to say that they're not good. I think Bama looked impressive with Jalen Milroe playing the majority of the ball game right there. He made some throws that most people were saying he wouldn't make or wasn't capable of making, and he made some of those throws downfield. So having that plus his dynamic playmaking ability with his legs makes Alabama a dangerous team, especially when they've got an offensive line as big as they do. They've got three guys that are over 350 pounds. Cole Kubelik made this remark on the broadcast last night. Talked about three guys. It's something that he had never seen in a college setting. He had gone and looked up and asked a bunch of people and never had seen three, much less having two guys over 350 pounds starting on the same offensive line. And right. Alabama's got three. They pulled up Alabama's offensive line, average weight, and it is higher than the average weight of the NFL average weight for starting offensive linemen. So
is it 339? Does that sound right? 339?
Yes, 339 sounds like the average weight for.
I think that's what it is. Actually, is 339 the average weight?
And it was like 315 or something like that for the NFL, or 319 or something like that. So they had it for about like 20 pounds,
right?
Or 15, 20 pounds. So they looked pretty good. Let's see. You got LSU in the top. You got A&M looked good, and I don't know 100%. Still don't know what they're going to be, because I want to see them against somebody that
a little tougher competition.
Yes, I want to see somebody that's worth a dang. Penn State came out, took care of business. That's a team that everybody's kind of, pointing at, looking at.
Oregon played a nobody, but they put up 81 points.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what Oregon has done.
I mean, when you just look at it, it's kind of impressive. You're like, wow, 81 points?
Yeah, I mean, they put up 81, I mean, that's exactly what they did. But, I mean, USC, nobody saw it. It looked like,
and they didn't play anybody really, so.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't play anybody, but again, nobody saw that game. I mean, there's teams out there that did,
I agree with you on Alabama. Alabama beat Middle Tennessee 56-7, and Middle Tennessee is not a slouch of a team. Like they are
They gave up a touchdown late in the game, I thought. Did they? Yeah. Or did they not?
What's that?
Maybe I'm thinking of Auburn's score. Never mind. Auburn gave up a touchdown at the very end of the game that make it 14. So
Alabama, the final here on ESPN, it says 56-7.
Okay, so they didn't give up one late in the. They did give up one late in the game. It was just.
What I'm saying is Middle Tennessee is not a terrible team. Like they're a decent.
Right.
They're a decent team most of the time.
I mean, isn't that a
and
team that beat Tennessee a couple of years ago?
yeah, they actually, and Middle Tennessee beat, what was it, Miami last year?
Was it Miami that was it Middle Tennessee that beat Miami?
I think. I'm pretty sure it was Middle Tennessee that beat Miami Hurricanes last year in Miami.
Right. I was trying to remember if that was them or not.
That was just last season.
That was,
yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a.
I thought Washington looked like a really, really good team yesterday.
Right.
They beat Boise State, who is a pretty good, program.
And
over
has a
the
knack
years.
for beating, and has a knack for beating, top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Especially
and they
in
beat
week
Boise
1.
State 56-19 yesterday. I thought that was kind of impressive showing by Washington and Michael Penix Jr.
All right, here we go. I've got one for you. What are your thoughts on Ohio State? Because that game was, 7-3 for a long time.
It was
until about midway third quarter before it got where Ohio State started to flex on Indiana.
This is I'm going to move my little thing here. Unimpressive wins. Ohio State gets one of these from me anyway. They wind up winning, I think, 23-3 over Indiana. It was at Indiana, but the odds on the game was 30 plus. Like they were at least a 30-point favorite in this game.
Right.
Ohio State was, even on the road. And, they played really slow in this game as far as score-wise. And it really wasn't that impressive. I'm not impressed with this Indiana team. I think they're going to be at least near the bottom, if not the last 1, 2, 3 teams in the Big Ten this year. It wasn't a real impressive showing by Ohio State, but it's just week 1. They're replacing their quarterback. McCord got the start, and we'll see if he, makes a big jump in week 2 or 3. He's going to have to, because they play Notre Dame pretty soon. And Notre Dame's another team that kind of has looked impressive.
Yep. And I mean, would you throw Georgia into the unimpressive win? I mean, they did win by a lot eventually, but it took them until the second half.
Eventually, but it was 14-7 or something midway through the second quarter.
Yeah, and then they scored late in the second quarter to kind of pad the lead, and then in the second half is where they started really running away with it. But it just took them a long time. Yeah. It seemed like
it did take. I mean,
they're replacing new quarterback, new offensive coordinator. They've got one of their top running backs is out for the season. They've got several other players that I guess that they were receivers and stuff like that they were replacing. New guys coming in. You got Ra coming in from Mississippi State. They had I can't remember who the other one was. There's another one that came in. They didn't have McConkey dressed, so there was a lot of things that were not 100%. They were not 100%, and
right.
I think obviously by the end of the game they will have eventually, or by the end of the season they will eventually have really, really figured some things out. So I don't really put a whole lot of stock in that one, but I wasn't really. I mean, I guess I wasn't. I wasn't really just fully all out impressed with what was going on.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think Ohio State started.
Here we go. This is going to probably anger a few people in our own little group here, but this wasn't talking about a winning team. But what about South Carolina?
Man, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a game that For me to be beat up as much as he was, Rattler actually had decent stats.
Right.
But my Lord, like I was making jokes last night that I think they had their 32nd sack in one game. I mean,
yeah. So there were
was
9 sacks. There were 9 sacks in that game, and I think that there was a post game show where they were talking about like, have you ever seen 9 sacks in one game? And I was like, well, yes, I have. Auburn sacked Brody Kroll 11 times in one game, and then they sacked John Parker Wilson once. They had 12 sacks in the game, or they did 12 on Brody Kroll and had a 13th one against.
But if you count all the hits, I mean, they got to him almost every time. Like he was like drilled all night long.
So the offensive line was just turnstiles.
Oh my Lord! It was. I don't know. Did you watch any of the game? I didn't watch the first half.
So
I caught the second half.
So I had the game on, but it was not the one that I was really paying a ton of attention to.
Yeah.
I was watching. I will do the quad box on my
right.
TV.
You got the 4 games on. Yeah.
And it was one of the games on the quad box, but I had. Because it was being played at the same time as the Alabama game, I was paying attention to the Alabama game. On my computer, I'd put the Penn State game, so I was watching Penn State. I think I'm trying to remember who else I had because it was a night game. So I would have had probably I think Georgia was still playing during that time, during at least the first half of that game. Georgia was still going. So, I mean, I had all those other games going on that I was paying more attention to than I was with the South Carolina one.
I didn't really get to see the first half of the game, but I got to see the second half.
Right. So it just was very perplexing. And then, of course, I mean, you knew you could see a good UNC team, and it was like, but there were times where UNC would be just really bad, even with all the talent that they've had. And then South Carolina, with what seemingly was lack of talent, could knock off really good teams like Clemson and Tennessee at the end of the year last year. So that was something
so you're asking about South Carolina. So what I saw last night is they clearly look like a team that is replacing 15 starters on both sides of the ball.
Right, and had about 4 or 5 go out with injuries during the game.
They only have 7 starters back from last year. That's it.
Yeah,
and their entire offensive line is new, and they looked like it last night. I mean, they were terrible.
You could say that this team, like, whereas the Georgias and Alabamas and even Clemson to a degree, Ohio State, those teams reload. South Carolina obviously was not reloading. They just didn't have the horses waiting, for their time. So that's basically what we saw last night.
Right.
Is that they were not experienced and had not played with each other and were very much showing it. So, yep. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And North Carolina on defense over the last couple of years has been very, very, very low average, to be honest.
Correct.
And South Carolina made them look like, the best pass rushing defense in the darn college football.
I guess you would think that, with a D coordinator like Gene Chizik, you would think that defense would be as good as it showed last night, for a lot longer. But the last couple of years with Gene, it just looked bad, and you were just really shocked at how
but
bad
last night, Gene Chizik, he dialed it up last night.
Right. So, maybe he's finally got players in there that he didn't have before. So,
I don't know if Carolina can keep that up. I don't know if it was just because South Carolina's offensive line was so bad. It was really hard to tell in that game because you just don't know if it was a mechanism of South Carolina, or did North Carolina really improve that much? It was kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
In that game, I thought. Now, you got to give North Carolina credit. I mean, they took care of business. They did. I think Drake May did have 2 late turnovers, interceptions in the late third quarter, first to the fourth, that I think kind of cost them. They could have easily won by, 3 or 4 touchdowns, I think, if they don't have those turnovers.
Right. Yeah.
It wound up being 31-17, which was far more than the spread. It was only a 2.5-point spread for North Carolina. So, I mean, it was still a good game. But I do have to say that Drake May did have 2 costly interceptions in the second half. One of them was a really errant pass that was behind the receiver. It was not a good pass at all. And then I think the other one was just a little high, I believe, if I remember right. And it was actually off the hands and then intercepted, I believe. But one of them didn't look good at all, I didn't think, with Drake May. And, he's being hyped up as a Heisman guy. And that one pass that I'm talking about was clearly a miss. I mean, it was just a bad pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of the North Carolina and South Carolina, who do you think is, after 1 week here, kind of watching most everybody play? We've got Clemson and Duke tomorrow night. We got Oregon State playing right now, and we've got LSU and FSU. But outside of that, just about everybody else has played. Who do you think is the most impressive conference so far? Who do you have that you would think, wow, I wasn't expecting that, or I think this conference has showed the most? Who do you think that is?
So, I mean, look, I know that, Oklahoma looked a heck of a lot better, especially defensively. Looked like Brent Venables' defense had really, really laid into the defense from last year. So I think that that was a much improvement, which will help out with the Big 12 looking the way that they were looking. Do we count Colorado as Pac-12 or Big 12? I mean, they beat a Big 12 team, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Well, I guess we're counting them as Pac-12 this year, but
we'll count them as Pac-12.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, there's only, 2 real Pac-12 teams that are left, right? Oregon State, Washington State, they're the last 2. So,
I honestly think it might be the Pac-12. Like, I think they've made a really good showing. You got USC that's already won 2 games. I know they've not been, majorly impressive, but you got Washington that won a big game against Boise State. You got Colorado that upset TCU. Oregon demolished a bad team. Arizona State won a game.
Utah
I'm not sure.
beat an SEC team. Utah beat Florida. So
SEC has 2 losses, with South Carolina getting beat and Florida getting beat.
Right. And I mean, yeah, and then of course everybody else was, big, nobody else played anybody that was worth a dang, outside of that. And then
right. In the SEC. LSU does tonight. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. If LSU was to lose tonight, then the SEC be 0-3 in games that, really had some kind of something behind them, another Power 5 or whatever you want to call it. I think that'd be a pretty big hit in my book for the SEC to open 0-3 on, and the Big 12. I mean, you had TCU losing at home. You had Baylor getting beat by Texas State. You had Texas Tech getting beat by Wyoming. I mean, that's kind of a black eye, if you ask me. I'm not 100% sure that there's another conference. The Big Ten actually played some conference games in week 1, which was a little crazy. And I thought he went out on me. But the Big Ten actually played some conference games, which, by the way, Thursday, our game day pick'em, my lock of the week was Rutgers over Northwestern. It was a 7-point spread, 6.5-point spread, and they won 24-7. So I did get my lock of the week. My upset of the week did not happen. It was UCLA, Coastal Carolina. That game was a little closer than this. It was 27-13. I think the spread was 14.5, which was right there. But I think that's what it was. It was either 14 or 14.5. So I had those as my upset and lock of the week.
Oop,
all right, John, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know where I was. So when you lost me.
Are you back?
Yes. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm not sure, man.
Are you able to hear me?
No, I was talking about the SEC being 0-2, and if they were to get beat tonight, LSU, and start 0-3, that wouldn't be good for the SEC, I don't think.
No. Obviously, no, that wouldn't be good at all. But I don't think that there's going to be. I think eventually this will be taken care of. The first of the season, everybody kind of get their shots in, but I think by the end of the season, everything will be evened out the way that it people think or should be. I think like you said, Pac-12 seemed to be the most impressive. The Big Ten seemed to lose a few games too, because remember, think about this: Purdue lost a game that
the Big Ten actually played some conference games.
They did. They had a conference game. So Nebraska lost to an in-conference, team. So to Minnesota. Purdue lost to
Rutgers
a team that
beat
was
Northwestern. So they had a few conference games to start out with.
Right, but like I said, Purdue lost. Ohio State had an unimpressive win against teams that they should have beat by a lot. And Illinois, kicked a field goal to beat a team that they should have beaten by more.
They were 9.5-point favorites.
Yeah. Right. And they kicked a field goal at the very end of the game to win. So so when you look at that, plus the fact that the SEC's lost a few games, the Big 12 lost with Texas Tech and Baylor and TCU all losing. Yeah. Those were games that they all should have probably won. I mean, Baylor probably isn't that great. TCU's not that great, but
the only
you would think that they would all win. You would think that they would all beat competition that's less than Power 5 outside of TCU playing a Power 5 team.
The only game that SEC won that was against a Power 5 opponent was Tennessee over Virginia. And I'm just going to be honest with you, Virginia's not very good. So
correct.
It's really not an impressive win.
Right. Yeah. That's not an impressive win. They should have beat Virginia, and they should have beat them by a lot. So yes.
Yeah, I mean that's not an impressive win. So, right, I mean that it's not a real impressive win.
Right. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. As of right now, Pac-12 looks
I
probably
actually
the most
think
impressive.
So far in week 1, it's the Pac-12.
Right. Because even the ACC has Boston College, which is just not very good. Yep.
And Virginia got beat. Now North Carolina did beat South Carolina, and if FSU was to beat LSU tonight, then maybe the ACC's got a claim. But
they'd have a claim as being the second one, but not necessarily. I don't think they'd be a one because
that's what I
said. Pac-12 hasn't. The Pac-12
they would have a claim being second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, first week of the season, so this isn't really anything.
Yeah, I mean, all of this you have to kind of take it.
Won this week, so. Yep.
It's really hard to sit here after week 1 and tell you guys, hey, this is what this team is going to be. I mean, we don't know exactly. We're just kind of giving our takes off of, seeing them one time. All of these teams are probably going to be improving over the next 2 or 3 weeks. There's usually a big jump between games 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, to start the season out. Each team usually grows quite a bit between those 2 games. So by week, usually by week 4 or 5, you kind of get a better feeling of what these teams are going to be. But we love talking college football. We'll come on here and do this each week and kind of give our takes on how things went for the week, and have a little fun with you guys. So we kind of already talked about some of the teams that were not looking great, and that was kind of the unimpressive wins. So we just talked about most impressive conferences so far. So let's do a little conference outlook after week 1. Mississippi State kind of struggled early in their game. I don't think Vandy looks very good. Like they struggled with Alabama A&M through at least the first half. They put some points on the board the second half. Still got to see some stuff on Texas A&M and see exactly what they're going to be when they actually play somebody. We'll find out about Bama. Bama plays Tennessee this coming week, so an outlook on
Texas.
That. I mean, yeah, that's
different UT.
Yes, that's what I meant. Texas.
Different UT.
Yeah, they're playing Texas this week, so we'll find out a lot about Alabama, between Alabama and Texas. It is in Tuscaloosa this coming Saturday, so that's probably the biggest SEC game of the week. I wouldn't think there would be one bigger than that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
I would look it up, but I'm going to be kicked out of here. So, but yeah, I would think that it is. Bama versus Texas.
I don't think there's a bigger game than Texas, Alabama.
Right. Now, week 3 or 4.
So, I mean, that's kind of the big game to look forward to in the SEC. It's another non-conference week for the most part. Week 2 will be there'll be a few games, matchups that are worthy of us looking at and talking about. The one that pops off the chart to me to start with is Texas and Alabama,
right?
For next week. But kind of looking ahead, Let's see if I can.
You got the schedule?
Yeah, get a schedule to come up here. Yeah, that's just coming up for week 1. Let's go week 2. I mean, I don't know if you consider it a big game, but Illinois goes to Kansas. It'll be interesting.
Yeah,
It's kind of a mid between the mids in the Big
Yeah.
10 and the Big 12.
it's a mid P5.
Yeah, that's kind of a mid
Power
game
5.
there,
It's Power 5. It's still Power 5, but it's mid.
right?
Yes.
Notre Dame goes to North Carolina State, plays at North Carolina State next week, which
That one will be interesting.
that'll be an interesting game next week, I think.
Yes.
Nebraska goes to Colorado. I think now that's going to be an interesting game and definitely be on TV.
It won't be interesting at all.
Well, it'll definitely be on TV now.
Yes, it will be. Matt Rule versus Coach Prime.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know that before, yesterday that it was going to be on TV, but it will be now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Another interesting SEC game. Ole Miss travels to Tulane and plays at Tulane. Tulane is the 24th ranked team in the country. The preseason, we'll see where they land. They did win yesterday, so they should still be ranked. Ole Miss is 22nd.
Is Auburn at Cal next week?
Yeah, Auburn at Cal next week. You got Texas A&M travels to Miami Hurricanes. So that's another SEC game, ACC. So that's a game to kind of keep your eye out on. Texas State actually travels to UTSA. I know most people aren't going to pay attention to it, but now that Texas State with TJ Finley, has beat Baylor, maybe they go and knock off UTSA.
Oh, yeah.
App State plays at North Carolina. You never know about App State. SMU plays Oklahoma.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see. SMU, that'll be seeing an Oklahoma team versus Rhett Lashley, the prodigal son of Gus Malzahn.
Yep.
Being the head coach at SMU.
Game. You got
that'll be an interesting one. ACC SEC matchup right there, right?
Cincinnati playing at. What's that?
I said the SMU Oklahoma game will be an ACC versus SEC.
Yeah, it will be soon.
Next year.
Yep, next year. You got Cincinnati travels to Pittsburgh. Cincinnati put a killing on Eastern Kentucky yesterday, but they are FCS, so we'll see. But that's a game kind of keep your eye on. Oregon travels to Texas Tech, which I thought was going to be a tough game, but now that they got beat by Wyoming, I'm not sure anymore.
Right. Right now it's going to go lean to Oregon beating the mess out of Texas Tech. Got it.
Yeah, that's at Texas
when
Tech.
When Oregon loses or that game is a lot closer than everybody thinks, then it's going to ultimately be everybody's going to be like, what in the heck happened? And then now they'll have to recalibrate everything.
Right. You got number 19, Wisconsin travels to play at Washington State next week. And That just give you some idea. Oh, yeah. Furman plays at South Carolina. And after South Carolina looked as bad as they did last night, Furman is a top 5 FCS team, has a really good team, has a chance to possibly win a championship this year in the FCS.
If Furman knocks off South Carolina, I'm going to go ahead and bury South Carolina.
I'm just telling you, as bad as they looked last night, Furman played Clemson like the second or third game of the season last year, and Clemson barely beat them.
Yeah.
And they have 21 starters back, and I know this because Defend Boys is covering Furman this year, and they have 21 starters back from that team last year, and they are a top 5 team. Just to give y'all a little rundown on that game.
Yep.
It's not a game that
I'll
most
actually
people
get to cover.
pay attention
I'll actually
to.
get to cover that too. I'll get to cover Furman for one game this year.
Yeah, I will be too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why. So I wanted to bring it up. It's actually a really big game for Furman football. And like I said, they are top 5 FCS and have some national championship hopes in the FCS. So we'll see exactly if Furman is able to stay with them and have a chance to knock them off. Then I'm not so sure about South Carolina anymore. We'll see.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll definitely be a game to kind of keep your eye out on for next week. That kind of gives you an idea on some of the games. There's probably a few more. I was just kind of scrolling through. The Texas A&M Miami game will be a game I would probably like to keep an eye out on. See if Texas A&M looks offensively as good playing at Miami.
Right.
So, that'll be another one there. Any other game that I mentioned there that kind of catches your eye? I mean, I know you got Cal and Auburn because for you're an Auburn fan, Auburn grad. So,
well, I mean, I'm going to probably be paying attention again to a lot of the SEC games that you had mentioned because of the fact that, like looking at the Furman and South Carolina game, the Texas A&M and Miami, the Auburn and Cal, the Alabama and Texas. Like I'm going to be watching all those right there. Those are going to be the ones that I pay attention to the most. So it will be those. There may be a few that are outside of that I go look at. If I can put my eyes on Oregon, I will. If I can put my eyes on Notre Dame next week, I may do that as well. But other than that, I mean,
the Notre Dame North Carolina State game should be a good game to watch.
Right. I'll be mostly focused on the ones that involve SEC teams. May even look at the Colorado game as well. So that one seems like it could be interesting as well. So, but I will be paying mostly attention, like I said, to the SEC ones. Obviously, the Auburn one will be of great interest to me. Yeah. So what about you? What are you going to be paying attention to?
Well, so I mean, most of those, are going to be the ones that I am paying most attention to, probably that I kind of run through there. I mean, the Texas Alabama game, honestly, that's probably going to be the first one that I'm going to put. And then, I go to there. The Notre Dame NC State game will be. I definitely am going to be paying attention to the Furman South Carolina game. I think that's going to be interesting. I might even be a little interesting in the Texas State UTSA game. Just to, take a peek or two here and there and just see what's going on in that game. UTSA.
Yeah, I would like to.
They did get beat yesterday by Houston, but it was at Houston and it was only 17-14.
Right.
So they have a pretty good team, I believe, UTSA. They usually do. They have a good offense.
Right.
But, those are some of the games that I'll keep an eye out on for next week, kind of looking ahead. I'm excited about football being back. Kentucky yesterday won by 30, covered the spread against Ball State. I will be interested in watching what happens this coming week with Georgia because they play Ball State, the same team Kentucky just played yesterday. Kentucky beat them 44-14. Georgia kind of struggled in the first half, come out and put a whooping on them the second half, but it was kind of a late run, and I'm going to be interested to see just how bad Georgia puts a whooping on Ball State on Saturday. So that's another game, but that's just me personally because I'm a Kentucky fan. Most people are not going to be paying attention to that game. I know that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, most people could care less about Georgia beating Ball State. So, but I will pay a little bit of attention to that game next week just because Kentucky just got through playing them, beat them 44-14, 30-point win at home, first game of the season. So we'll see. I thought Devin Leary actually struggled yesterday in the first half. He was only 40%, 8 of 20 in the first half. Did have like 144 yards, but I actually thought his accuracy was a little bit off yesterday. I'm hoping it was just first game jitters, being new team, new offense, new offensive coordinator, new teammates, new crowd, new experience. I'm kind of hoping maybe he gets all of that out of the way and gets the bugs out of the way because I think Leary can be a great quarterback and lead Kentucky to a good season, but he's going to have to play better than yesterday.
Yep.
Well, all right, guys. This has been College SportsCast Weekend Wrap-Up. We're going to wrap things up with about an hour show here. Again, our sponsors, True Victory. It's a veteran-owned athletic brand. Use our code DeFanboys 15% off. To get 15% off, use DeFanboys. They got some really cool gear there and comfort-fitting athletic gear. And they're all veteran-owned. You can get veteran colors and Army colors and stuff like that and anything. And you can also get your team's colors in most of the shirts and stuff there. So check them out. And then we are on Amazon as an affiliate, and our links, you can customize your own fan shop. So if you are a Kentucky fan or an Auburn fan or Georgia fan or whoever, Clemson, Texas, whoever you are, you can customize your own shop and place orders. To do that, just go to greenvillesportsmedia.com or thefanboys.com. And there are links on the page. John Roberts, it's been fun. We'll wrap this up with an hour, but we'll see you guys next week. I appreciate it, John.
All right.